Have you ever caught yourself arguing with someone who is not even in the room? Maybe you are lying in bed, taking a shower, driving home, or staring at the ceiling when your mind suddenly pulls you into another reality. In that reality, you finally say the perfect thing. The person who dismissed you realizes they were wrong. The person you admire is impressed by you. The conversation unfolds exactly the way you wanted it to. For a moment, it feels strangely satisfying. Then the scene ends. You return to the real world and realize that none of it happened. So why does your mind keep creating these elaborate conversations, confrontations, romances, and victories? It is not simply boredom, and it does not automatically mean something is wrong with you. Your brain may be trying to finish an emotional experience that reality left incomplete. But there is a hidden danger. The same mental ability that helps you prepare, heal, and understand yourself can quietly become a substitute for actually living. And the line between those two is much thinner than it seems. Main body, your mind is not just wandering. We often describe these experiences as daydreaming, but ordinary daydreaming sounds harmless and random, like disconnected thoughts floating through the mind. What happens during these imagined scenarios is often far more organized. Your brain creates an entire private production. You are the writer, director, actor, editor, and audience at the same time. You choose the location. You decide what everyone says. You imagine their facial expressions, their pauses, the tone of their voice, and the exact moment they finally understand you. You may replay an old argument and give yourself the confidence you did not have at the time. You may imagine telling someone how you really feel. You may picture yourself being admired, respected, successful, desired, or finally taken seriously. And the level of detail can be remarkable. The strange part is that your brain is spending real energy on an event that is not taking place. So what is it trying to accomplish? In many cases, it is attempting to solve something that reality never allowed you to solve. Real life does not allow rewrites. Reality moves forward without waiting for us. Someone says something hurtful and you freeze. You walk away without defending yourself. 3 hours later, while washing dishes, the perfect response appears in your mind. But the moment is already gone. A conversation ends badly. A relationship changes. An opportunity disappears. You realize what you should have said only after saying nothing. Real life does not give us a second draft. The mind, however, does. It returns to the unfinished moment and rebuilds it. This time you are calm. This time you are powerful. This time nobody interrupts you. This time the other person reacts exactly as they should. Your brain dislikes unresolved experiences. When an interaction leaves behind embarrassment, anger, rejection, or helplessness, the mind may continue working on it long after the external event has ended. The imagined scene becomes a private laboratory. Inside it, your brain can test different responses, restore a sense of control, and create the emotional resolution that reality failed to provide. That does not make you weak. It means your mind is trying to protect you from an unfinished feeling. But to understand why these scenarios often appear when you are doing almost nothing, we need to look at what happens when your attention relaxes. The brain's background storyteller. When you are deeply focused on a demanding task, much of your mental energy is directed toward the outside world. You are solving a problem, writing an email, navigating traffic, following instructions, or responding to something happening in front of you. But when that external demand disappears, another system becomes more active. This is often associated with what researchers call the default mode network. You can think of it as the brain's background storyteller. It becomes active during moments of rest, reflection, memory, self-evaluation, and imagination. That is why these mental movies often begin in the shower, before sleep, during a quiet walk, or while looking through a window. The outside world becomes quieter, and the internal world becomes louder. Your mind collects pieces of memory, emotion, fear, and desire. Then it combines them into a new story. A painful conversation from the past may be mixed with the confidence you wish you had today. A person you barely know may become the central character in an ideal relationship. A future goal may be transformed into a vivid scene in which you have already succeeded. The mind is constantly asking questions such as, what could have happened? What should I have done? What might happen next? Who could I become? This ability is not useless. It is part of how human beings learn from the past and prepare for the future. The problem is not that your mind creates alternative realities. The problem begins when those realities become more rewarding than action. Some scenarios are rehearsals. Imagine that you need to have a difficult conversation with a family member. Before speaking to them, you mentally practice what you want to say. You predict how they might respond. You prepare yourself to stay calm. Or perhaps you are planning to ask for a raise. You rehearse your explanation, think through possible objections, and imagine yourself speaking with confidence. This kind of mental simulation can be useful. Your brain is reducing uncertainty. It is creating familiarity before you enter a stressful situation. When the real moment arrives, you may feel less shocked because part of you has already walked through it. Athletes visualize performance. Speakers rehearse presentations. People mentally prepare for interviews, dates, confrontations, and important decisions. Imagination can become a bridge between fear and action. But there is another kind of scenario. It looks almost identical from the outside, yet it leads in the opposite direction. When rehearsal becomes replacement, sometimes you repeat a conversation so many times that your mind begins to feel as though it has already happened. You have said everything. You have defended yourself. You have confessed your feelings. You have received the apology. You have won the argument. Emotionally, the scene feels complete. But in reality, you have done nothing. You never sent the message. You never set the boundary. You never asked the question. You never started the project. You consumed the emotional reward of action without taking the risk that real action requires. That is when imagination stops being preparation and becomes substitution. This can also happen with success. You picture your future self so clearly that the fantasy creates a brief sense of achievement. You imagine the recognition, the confidence, the financial freedom, or the moment everyone finally sees your potential. The destination feels exciting. The real process does not. Writing the first page feels boring. Practicing the skill feels repetitive. Making the uncomfortable phone call feels frightening. The imagined future gives you the reward instantly, while reality asks you to work without any guarantee. Slowly, the mental movie becomes a soft prison. It does not feel like a prison because it is comfortable. There are no consequences inside it. There is no rejection. There is no failure. But there is also no movement. The hidden desire beneath the fantasy. Under many imagined scenarios lies one powerful human need: control. Reality is unpredictable. You cannot control what another person thinks about you. You cannot force someone to understand your intentions. You cannot rewind an embarrassing moment. You cannot guarantee that honesty will be rewarded. You cannot demand that life recognizes your value at the exact moment you are ready to be recognized. Other people have their own fears, desires, memories, and interpretations. They do not follow your script. Inside your imagination, however, everything obeys you. You decide when the conversation begins. You control every response. The person who hurt you finally understands the damage they caused. The person who ignored you suddenly sees your worth. The person you desire says exactly what you have been waiting to hear. You never lose your words. You never look foolish. You are never misunderstood. For someone who has spent years feeling powerless, invisible, dismissed, or emotionally unsafe, this private world can feel deeply comforting. It offers relief. It gives you temporary dignity when reality has made you feel small. It creates emotional warmth when the real world feels cold. There is no reason to feel ashamed of that. Your imagination may have helped you survive moments that felt impossible to face directly. But protection always has a price when it continues after the danger is gone. Your emotions can react to events that never happened. The body can respond strongly to imagined experiences. You can feel anger while replaying an argument. You can feel nervous while imagining rejection. You can feel excitement while picturing a romantic encounter. You can even feel grief over a future that never existed. The emotions are real even when the event is not. This creates a serious complication. You may spend 20 minutes imagining your partner betraying, rejecting, or humiliating you. Then you return to reality with your heart racing and your body filled with resentment. The real person may have done absolutely nothing, but emotionally you are already reacting to the version of them created by your mind. You begin punishing a real human being for the behavior of an imaginary character. The opposite can happen as well. You meet someone and build an ideal version of them in your head. You imagine their personality, their intentions, and the future you could have together. You create conversations that reveal emotional depth they have never actually shown. Then reality arrives. They respond differently. They seem distracted. They do not understand you immediately. They turn out to be more ordinary, complicated, or distant than the person you invented. And the disappointment feels enormous. Not because the real person promised you everything, but because your imagined version did. Reality is now being judged against a script it never agreed to follow. The most important question to ask. So how can you tell whether your imagination is helping you or keeping you trapped? Ask yourself one question. Is this scenario preparing me for reality or protecting me from reality? Preparation leads toward action. You rehearse a boundary, then express it. You imagine applying for an opportunity, then submit the application. You plan a difficult conversation, then schedule it. You visualize the first step, then take it. The imagined scenario gives you courage for something real. Protection moves in the opposite direction. You imagine setting a boundary, but continue accepting the same treatment. You imagine confessing your feelings, but never communicate honestly. You imagine becoming successful, but avoid beginning because the first attempt might be imperfect. You imagine being respected instead of practicing the actions that would help you respect yourself. Preparation is a launch pad. Protection is a hiding place. The difference is not how vivid the scenario feels. The difference is what you do after it ends. Step 1. Put the scenario into words. The first way to regain control is to take the scene out of your head. Write it down. You do not need to make it beautiful. You are not writing a novel. Simply describe what keeps replaying. What happens in the scene? Who is there? What do you finally say? How do they respond? Most importantly, how do you feel at the end? Putting the fantasy into words can reveal what the mind is actually asking for. Perhaps the imagined argument is not really about winning. Perhaps it is about wanting to feel respected. Maybe the romantic scene is not only about one specific person. Maybe it represents a desire to feel chosen, understood, or emotionally safe. Maybe the fantasy of success is not about money. Maybe it is about proving that your life matters. When a desire remains unnamed, the mind often expresses it through stories. Writing helps translate the story into a need you can understand. Once the need becomes visible, you can begin searching for a real way to respond to it. Step 2. Identify the real-world action. After writing the scenario down, ask, what is the smallest real action hidden inside this fantasy? Not the perfect action, not the most dramatic action, the smallest one. Maybe you do not need to deliver the powerful speech you rehearsed. Maybe you only need to say, I did not like the way you spoke to me. Maybe you do not need to confess your entire emotional history. Maybe you need to send one honest message. Maybe you do not need to transform your career this week. Maybe you need to work for 20 focused minutes today. Imagined scenarios often become overwhelming because they are complete stories. Real progress usually begins with an incomplete, awkward, unimpressive step. That is the trade. Fantasy gives you perfection without risk. Reality gives you growth through imperfection. When the scene ends, take one piece of energy from it and convert that energy into behavior. Even a tiny action teaches the brain that imagination is not the final destination. It is information. Step 3. Give imagination a closing time. Trying to eliminate every imagined scenario is unrealistic. The harder you command yourself not to think about something, the more your attention may return to it. Instead of declaring war on your imagination, create a boundary around it. When you notice yourself entering a familiar mental movie, give it a limited amount of time. For example, set a timer for 10 minutes. During those 10 minutes, allow the scene to unfold. Do not judge yourself. Do not pretend you are above it. Let your mind say what it wants to say. But when the timer ends, the theater closes. Stand up. Change your physical position. Return to the task in front of you. This teaches your brain an important distinction. You are allowed to visit the imaginary world. You are not required to live there. Over time, the scenario becomes something you choose to engage with rather than something that automatically controls your attention. Step 4. Use the body to return to reality. There will be moments when you do not notice the fantasy immediately. You may suddenly realize that 30 minutes have passed. Your heart is beating faster. Your emotions are intense. You are angry, excited, ashamed, or heartbroken because of something that exists only in your mind. In that moment, do not try to defeat thought with more thought. Return through the body. Feel the pressure of your feet against the floor. Notice the temperature of the room. Take a slow breath and pay attention to your chest rising and falling. Choose one physical object near you. Study its shape, texture, and position. Touch the edge of a table. Hold a cold glass. Listen for the nearest sound, then the farthest sound you can hear. Your mind can travel into the past, the future, or an alternate version of the present. Your body cannot. Your body is always here. Sensory attention sends a clear message to the nervous system. There is no confrontation happening in this room. There is no audience. There is no romantic scene. There is no victory or disaster unfolding. There is only this breath, this floor, this sound, and this moment. The goal is not to violently destroy the fantasy. The goal is to land. Learn from the pattern. The scenarios you repeat are rarely random. They often reveal the emotional themes you are struggling with. If you constantly imagine proving people wrong, you may be carrying a deep need for recognition. If you repeatedly imagine being rescued or chosen, you may be longing for security and connection. If you replay confrontations, you may have anger that has never been expressed safely. If you imagine yourself becoming a completely different person, part of you may be asking for permission to change. Do not only ask, "How do I stop imagining this?" Ask, "What is this story trying to tell me?" The fantasy may be exaggerated, but the need beneath it can still be real. Once you identify that need, you no longer have to depend entirely on the imaginary scene to satisfy it. You can start building something real. Not perfect, not cinematic, but real. You are not the thoughts flowing through you. Think of your mind as a river. The imagined scenes are part of the water. Some are calm and pleasant. Others pull you toward anger, regret, obsession, or fear. You cannot stop every thought from appearing any more than you can order a river to stop moving. But you do not have to jump into every current. You can notice the story without becoming the story. You can say, "My mind is creating a conversation. My mind is trying to rewrite an old moment. My mind is giving me a temporary feeling of control." That small change in language creates distance. Instead of being trapped inside the movie, you become aware that a movie is playing. Awareness does not immediately erase the scene. It gives you a choice, and choice is the beginning of freedom. Final. Some of the worlds you have created inside your mind may be beautiful. They may have comforted you during lonely nights. They may have given you confidence when you felt invisible. They may have offered warmth when reality felt distant, unfair, or painfully cold. Perhaps imagination became the safest place available to you. There is nothing shameful about that. But a shelter is not supposed to become your entire life. These scenarios are drafts. They are rehearsal rooms. They are emotional signals. They may show you what you desire, what still hurts, and what you are afraid to risk. But they cannot hold your hand. They cannot answer you unexpectedly. They cannot give you a real embrace, a difficult lesson, an honest relationship, or a victory you truly earned. Real life is less controlled. People forget their lines. Conversations become uncomfortable. You may be rejected. You may be misunderstood. You may take action and receive no immediate reward. But reality contains something imagination can never fully reproduce.
Participation.
The moment you speak honestly, begin imperfectly, set a boundary, send the message, or take the first step, you stop watching your life from inside your head. You enter it. So the next time the projector turns on, do not hate yourself for watching. Notice the story. Understand what it is trying to give you. Take the lesson. Then turn off the screen, open the door, and return to the world that is actually waiting for you. Because your imagination can write thousands of possible lives, but only your actions can make one of them real. If this video made you recognize a pattern in yourself, share the scenario your mind returns to most often. And if you enjoy exploring the hidden psychology behind everyday behavior, support the video with a like and subscribe for more.